the fifth and sixth spot get a little their grubby mitts on some of that cash? That is a good question.
Is Ben Johns making the same amount as Samantha Parker? I don't know.
This is the team format of pickleball here, Jimmy.
Yeah,
I think it needs to be evenly distributed.
All right. Welcome back to episode 4 of The Line, presented by MLP, presented by DoorDash, brought to you by Polymarket. I am your host, Jimmy Miller, and we've got my lovely co-host, Mr. Adam Stone. We are here to talk all things this week, all things mid-season tournament, and kind of go over, where the lines are looking on Polymarket, where the best bets, the best wagers, how to make the most money, and just kind of, bring all things pickleball to you from that gambling perspective.
Yeah, this massive break that we've had in the middle of the summer with one weekend off here. And then you're right, the mid-season tournament, it is a cool event. Grand Rapids, Michigan, great pickleball community. They are fantastic. They've had a great tournament for 7 or 8, maybe more years at this point. So this is a cool event because we have the 20 MLP teams all here. So it won't be a group of 5, group of 6 situation. And we have 4 teams added to make it a clean 24. We have Team Australia, Team Europe, Team Canada, and the College All-Stars. So we have some cool dynamics rolling for the mid-season event.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Like if you are going to attend an event and you want to make sure that you're going to catch your favorite team, the mid-season tournament is the one to attend, right? I mean, everybody is there. Every single team is in attendance. It's a double elimination tournament, so it's kind of a true tournament format. There's no pools. You can come through the losers bracket to take the bronze, but you cannot win it through the losers bracket.
Right.
So that's kind of a thing. That's old school PPA right there, right? That's that's back in the day. The bronze fit one game to 15 in the back draw.
Yeah, I mean they had, when I first started, you had feed in back draws where you can come all the way back through. So you're right. This one
Right.
you must be undefeated. Yeah. So there's a couple wild situations there where you play the same team twice in the same tournament and all that good stuff. So yeah, and this is also here we have the top 4 60K, 20K, 12.5K, and 7.5K for the 4 top teams of this tournament. And also the top 3 teams will receive some standings points of 10, 6, and 4 in Grand Rapids. So there is a little extra cheddar there on the line also.
Yeah, and with the standings at the top being so close, those 10 points could be huge down the stretch. I mean, if you look at the standings right now, I mean, it's the 5s, it's the Mad Drops, it's the Shock. Those 3 are kind of battling it out. If one of them can come out on top and pick up 10 points here, that could be massive moving forward.
Right. No, and I get it. You have 25 and 18 for first and second of a standard event. But as you mentioned, Jimbo, 21.75 points per event for New Jersey, 20.75 points per event for St. Louis, and then the Mad Drops are just below at 20.33. That is a huge deal for specifically those top teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, remember the first event, Shock and 5s in Dallas, I believe, finished 3 and 4. And so this is the chance to kind of make up for that little bit of a hiccup, and to solidify those standings at the top. So there is a lot on the line, and then obviously anytime you can win a little bit of money,
Yep.
you get a little extra to play for. Do you know, Adam, just random question, is that distributed evenly amongst all 6 players, or is it up to the team to distribute it? How does that work?
That is a great question. I know I read in the email that it does go directly to the players, but is it the ones that do the heavy lifting as the top 4, or do the 5th and 6th spot get a little their grubby mitts on some of that cash? That is a good question. I don't have the answer to that.
I mean, look, does Ben Johns making the same amount as Samantha Parker? I don't know.
Hey, it's a team. This is the team format of pickleball here, Jimmy. I think it needs to be evenly distributed.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, like, I don't know the financial situation, but I would assume Samantha Parker probably needs it a little more than Ben,
Yes.
anyways.
Yeah, I don't know the contract specifics either, but I think that Sam could really use that as
Yeah, you
Ben is
know,
just spending the summer in a luxury Airbnb in Newport Beach. I think he's just fine. Doesn't
yeah,
need an extra 10 or 15 or whatever it may be.
yeah. I mean, that's 3 months of expenses for some players, and that's a nice dinner for Ben. So
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely right. Yeah. So
yeah. So yeah, let's kind of break down. So we have the first round set on who's playing who. The top 8 teams all received buys, I believe. And so we don't really know what those matchups will be, but we can kind of make some projections and kind of look at what Polymarket has. Because right now, Polymarket, it's similar to the season standings, right? I believe we have the fives are 29% chance favorites, the shock at 21%, and the mad drops are they at 20?
Mad Drops are at 16 right now. And then you
16. Okay.
have really the Sliders and a couple other teams, Brooklyn and some other teams that are right around that under 10% mark. And then it dips down pretty quickly there towards the bottom of the standings. But also one thing to mention also with those top 8 seeds, you have the 9, 10, 11, and 12 seeds playing those new teams into the draw. And so the bottom 8 teams of the regular MLP teams will be battling each other, and those top seeds 9 through 12 will be playing one of the teams added in. And really, of those 4 teams, the name recognition is more significant on Team Australia side, and there is some lesser known commodities on those other 3 teams jumping in the mix. And but 1 game to 11 MLP format, you can't take anybody lightly. So, of course, the MLP teams have the upper hand there, but one of these hungry Team Europe, Team Canada, Team Australia, or college all stars could ruin someone's day. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think of all the teams, if I'm looking at like a potential upset, similar to what you said, and I believe Polymarket has a 65-35 right now, Vegas versus Team Australia. Team Australia, like you said, has the name recognition. They have Sarah Burr, they have Zach Grabovich, they have Talia Saunders, and they have Mitch Hargraves, who was just played over. I believe he just played recently in PPA Asia,
I think a
and
second.
so
I think he got silver in singles. I believe that's right.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. And so they have name recognition on that team. Now, I would say if we had to argue the top Australians are playing MLP, Danielle and Sarah Dennehy and Joey Wild are already over here. But with that being said, I mean, that team can come up and make a little bit of noise. And we've seen Vegas struggle a little bit at times, right? They've done a lot of what's the word, maneuvering with their lineup. We've seen Zoe Wang and Callie Smith. We've seen Liz Trulock and Callie. We've seen different mixed lineups. Is Roscoe back from his trip to Ibiza? We don't know, right? So will he play? I mean, there's a lot of question marks there. And the other thing is, like, for example, Zoe's been playing a lot in PPA Asia, and that's where all these Australians have been playing. So they should be
Right.
familiar with her game as well. So it shouldn't be any surprise there.
Yeah.
So if I had to pick a potential upset, I think that's the one that I would go with.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy, sometimes you go to Ibiza and you just don't come back. So, I mean, I'm hoping to see the
Uh,
big man Roscoe in Grand Rapids, but maybe we don't. So, um, yeah, and also let's talk a couple things before we dig deeper into the lines, just about the fact that this is the mid-season tournament and not a traditional pool play. Do you think that we could have some excused absences or some players that are not at, or some teams that are not at full strength with a player or two possibly opting out, or maybe that little head cold turns into something more and doesn't allow them to play possibly?
yeah, look. So I'll give you an example. The Black Bears. This is the start of 4 straight weeks of events, right? 4 in a row. It's it's a grind, right? It's a lot of teams. Like you said, there's a small break, but a lot of teams are going to play in that home stretch. My understanding is that a lot of these contracts show 6 MLP events. So if you're a playoff team, you're that, most likely, which we kind of, we know who the top 6 or 7 are at this point. If you're a playoff team, you're going to hit your 6 events without the mid-season tournament. So do we see teams using this as an opportunity to rest some of those top players? Do we see, or do you see a team, for example, that loses in the first round and then they play their bench the rest of the way? Or, do we see different lineups? Is this the one you experiment with? I think there's a lot of question marks. I think we might see a lot of different lineups and matchups here. But yeah, I mean, I'll say this, if I'm one of the top 3 teams, the points are going to mean a lot. If I'm 4 through 8 or 9 in this situation, this might be where we, like you said, we see, that hamstring for Deckel. We don't want to risk it, right?
Right.
Let's let him get healthy. Let's give him 2 weeks off. Let's play Casey Diamond. We feel pretty good about that. I may go that route.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. And also, if there is, as you mentioned, an early round loss, maybe that is more likely a fifth, sixth player getting thrown in to the fire in the heart of the tournament. So something to even monitor, not just before play starts, but during the event as well for these Polymarket lines. And I do agree that if there is going to be a first round upset of the 4 new teams, I think it would most likely be Australia. But even though some of the percentages on Polymarket are pretty heavy, we have 74% here for the Black Diamonds against the College All Stars. We have 65% for SoCal versus Team Canada. So, you're having to pay a lot to earn back a little. But I mean, if these are, it is hard at this point for a no name player to just jump in there and beat these established teams. Maybe it happens in singles from time to time, maybe even in a traditional PPA format when it's just you and your partner. But to have a team of 4 come in and beat one of the 9 through 12 seeds that are already established in MLP is going to be extremely difficult, even in the 1-game-to-11 format. So I think that even though those percentages are high, I think that that's a good money play to take those 9 through 12 seeds, specifically against Europe, Canada, and the College All Stars.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, sometimes it's okay to just place your money on the heavy favorites, knowing that they're gonna, the return might not be as big, but it's as close to guaranteed as it can get. And I feel like, we saw this last year. We saw it at Worlds, right? At PPA Worlds, they had a MLP Cup. They had a college all-star team play for against the challenger teams. We had, I believe it was the chefs opted out and all these things. And so we had a college all-star team slide in there. And I mean, is there talent there? Of course. Are there good players? Absolutely. But this is where you see the gap in all sports between college players and pro players, right? And we talk about this all the time. And we talk about, there's always these hypotheticals that I always hear, right? Are the Jets so bad that they would lose to Georgia, right? And it's like, no, they
No,
wouldn't. They would beat them
no.
100-0, right? And that's, unfortunately, it's the same thing in pickleball. And so I think these college players have definitely an uphill battle, but there's talent there. And 1 game to 11, like you said, it's still exciting and it's fun to, these kids may turn pro at some point, and we
Right,
may see them on the tour eventually.
right.
And
Yeah,
so yeah, I think it's exciting.
yeah, I think back in my day, 5 or 6 years ago, there was more likely to be someone that came out of the woodwork. You're talking about the Georgia New York Jets thing. That is such an established sport that there's almost no chance. So pickleball right now is probably in between the early days and that NFL example. So there is a chance, but we're getting to the point where pickleball is more and more mainstream and the pro game has been around for a while, that it's going to be hard for someone to just jump in there and beat one of these MLP teams. And this is not MLP teams seeded 17th through 20. This is 9th through
Right.
12th that those teams
Yeah.
will be playing. And that is a significant difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're playing playoff teams, right? I mean, they're essentially playing
Right.
teams that are in line to make the playoffs right now. And so yeah, I mean, again, if you're going to, if you can get something around 65-70%, it's probably worth the play on Polymarket. Is the return going to be as large as some of these other ones? No. Are you going to look like a genius when you're right? No. But listen, if you got a little bit of extra money in that piggy bank, I think that's the play.
Right. Let's
So
okay, Jimmy. I agree with that completely. Let's take a look at a couple of the first round MLP versus MLP teams. So the first one I'm seeing here is the Chicago Slice versus the Carolina Hogs, and then also the Florida Smash versus the Bay Area Breakers, and both of those are right around even money, around the 50% mark. Any thoughts on either of those two first round matchups? That you're really leaning one way or the other.
yeah, so the slice hogs is interesting to me because I do feel like with the recent trade, I think in the past, I would say if you asked me 2 weeks ago, I would probably have it 70-30 slice. But with the recent moves that they've made, now with Elsie Hendershot is extremely talented, but Elsie Hendershot also went 2-8 in last event, right? And she's still 13 and she's young, and her and Jamie Way I think only won one game together. She hasn't had a ton of success. AJ Kohler is not playing great. I think Zane is more of a complimentary player at this point in his career as opposed to an alpha. And so you never know in a matchup like that because there's one guy on the other side of the net who sometimes he looks like the best player in the world, and sometimes you don't even know if he knows what planet he's on. But Brandon French is that guy,
Yeah, he
and
is that guy.
French he is. And 1-11, Brandon French can beat anybody.
Yeah, and he
He
can chirp into JLG, John Lucian Goins, and
exactly.
LC Hendershot and get them out of their game mentally. But yeah, there's a ton of variability on the slice. I like the trade to acquire talent. John Lucian Goins played great against us. I saw him later in the week in New York not play as well. They're mixing in all of their players with AJ Kohler and Jelena Ingram also getting some PT. So that is a tough one with the variability and what the lineups could possibly look like. And the Hogs, without Brandon French and a couple of their other players, ended up beating Palm Beach in New York in the
Yeah.
previous tournament. So yeah, I think that 50-50 makes sense. And then on the flip side of it, with the Florida Smash and the Bay Area Breakers, I mean, you have to like what you've seen from the Breakers men. They have three very capable men in Blaine Hovenier, Lin Yang, and Pablo Tejas. But at the same time, the Florida Smash ladies have been overachieving. Zoe Weil has been playing great, and Revis and Martina Frantova have been playing solid ball too. I love Zoe Weil's tweets over there calling out Jim Kloss about the worst women's team in MLP continuing to win. So that is one of those kind of dichotomies of good quality men, quality women. Can the men of the Florida Smash step up with Kaysen Campbell, and they have a Connor Mogul who is from Grand Rapids, and
Yeah.
also another heavy hitter on the men's side for them. So any thoughts on that 50-50?
Yeah, that one again, I think it's interesting because I would say that if you had to look at the Bay Area, you would say that their men probably top 10 men in, collectively as a group, but then their women is kind of where their downfall is. And so it is a little bit surprising they haven't made any sort of moves to strengthen that. I mean, you can only play two of those guys at a time. But and then on the flip side, Florida, I do feel like Florida's women have kind of carried them a little bit
They
this
have,
year.
yeah.
So it's kind of it's one of those things where we may see a dream breaker out of this. We may
Sure.
see, the women of Florida and one of their mix pick up that win, and then the men of Bay Area, right, and then a win in mixed, and we may end up seeing a dream breaker. And if we do, I have to think that Florida team with Connor Mogul now and Kaysen Campbell could be real dangerous in a dream breaker.
Yeah, sure. And Zoe Weil has also had a couple solid wins. I'm not going to say deep runs on the PPA tour, but some solid wins on the singles court, and Martina Frantova can absolutely stripe the ball and get hot. So I think that the ladies of Bay Area definitely could have some issues in a dream breaker if they're able to get there. So yeah, that's another interesting matchup for sure. And looking over at the entire tournament winner, we
Mhm.
have New Jersey and St. Louis at the top. And then you have Mad Drops third, as we mentioned. And I think that this is a situation to just pump money into the favorites. The Shock and the Fives have been continuing to get better from that first event that you mentioned, where they finished a little bit lower than they were hoping. I think the Mad Drops are going the other way, actually. So, no moves made there. A lot of buzz about Max Freeman possibly getting traded. But Catherine and Jade have struggled a little bit. So, if we're looking at just over 50% or so to pump money into both the Fives and the Shock, I just think that there is a huge percentage chance that one of those two teams wins. And I kind of disregard the field at those percentages. If those percentages were higher, then we'd have to revisit that and think about that a little bit more. But I like pumping money into the favorites at those percentages and take my chances. And you get a 2-for-1 also. I would just be shocked if one of those two teams doesn't win.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, split it. Take your money and split it, and you come out on top, and you're going to feel good either way. But I think the Shock have to be heavy favorites here. Obviously, the Fives have also played really well, and you can never count out Annalie Waters in anything. And I agree with the Mad Drops. Jade and Catherine have kind of gone the other direction a little bit. I think that I can't remember, something like, you know, 9-6 on the year or something like that. Not like anything that's stellar, that we've seen from them in the past. Um, and then, if you look at those teams in a dream breaker, if they get to it, it's like, yeah, I mean, Gabe Joseph, Ben Johns, Sam Parker, Catherine Parento probably don't hold up against, the Fives or the Shock, to be honest with you. And so I think it's probably fair to eliminate LA at this point. And then I would say that I'm pounding the favorites, like you said. I would go Fives and Shock for sure.
And right underneath the Mad Drops too, you have combined at 22% between the Columbus Sliders and the Brooklyn Pickleball team. And, the Columbus Sliders have had a lot of moving parts and changes to their roster. But I would say I would actually like the Sliders at the percentage more than the higher percentage Los Angeles Mad Drops, just because of the talent and the balanced roster on that court. I would put the Brooklyn Pickleball team a little bit lower there. So I would actually have the Sliders. So pump the favorites and possibly throw some money on the Sliders too at a pretty low percentage. And I would not be looking to put money on the Brooklyn Pickleball team or the Los Angeles Mad Drops.
Yeah, Brooklyn, it's interesting because obviously Brooklyn is Rachel feeling healthy, is Riley back to full strength. He had that bruised heel in St. Louis. Um, they have a little bit of I don't want to say Achilles heel, but they have a little bit of a gap there when Hannah Blatt has to play. She struggled a little bit. I don't think that she's the strongest. Now, she did come in clutch against Brooke Buckner when she needed to. But I don't think she's the strongest in a dream breaker. I think that obviously she's a solid player, but yeah, I think that they're probably trending the other direction, where Columbus, this is now Tyra healthy, because she wasn't healthy their first event. Paris was coming off of a sickness. This is their, second event together. Yeah, do we see that Columbus Sliders team that we saw last year? They should be even better, right? I
Yeah.
mean, with Ira, Paris, obviously Andre and CJ, that team should be even better this year. I mean, I wouldn't sleep on the Sliders in this. Like, it's possible that team can come up and make some noise.
Yeah.
And remember, with these buys, it's really one upset and you're in the finals.
Yeah, right. And not you mentioned the sickness between the ladies for the sliders. The same thing with CJ Klinger. So he's had a bit. The luscious lefty. I'm a big CJ Klinger guy. He's a former hard eight, but his level has dipped a little bit, and he's had a bit of a plateau. How much of that is just working out play on the court or not feeling 100% physically? I mean, these edges are so razor thin these days with the quality of athlete. If you're a little sick or you have a little tweak heel for Riley, hamstring for Deckel, whatever, like it's a huge deal. Like the talent gaps were so big a few years ago. If you were at 85 or 90%, it was almost whatever if you were a top player. It's not like that anymore. So being 100% is a massive deal, and there can be some value to be had there with some of these percentages if we do get a good indication that the full roster is 100% to play.
Yeah, I agree absolutely. There's always this event's always a little bit weird. We talked about earlier, do we see everybody's full rosters? Do we, because it's not an actual part of the regular season. But it is still a great event, and Andrea Coop does an incredible job of putting it on. And, I think that it's fun. It's in a cool, like you said, it's a pickleball crazed town. Downtown Grand Rapids is super cool. It's a cool place to hang out. Everybody is out and about on the streets at night, going to ice cream and walking around, and it's a fun time. And so hopefully we get every team there at full strength, and we see what can happen. But I do think that,
Yeah,
like I
and
said, the shot. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I was gonna add into the Beer City vibes. You got Perrin
Yeah,
Brewing up there, one of the main sponsors. Andrea Coop, legend of the game, along with Paul Richards and about 100 other volunteers that make that possible. You can walk and do the e-scooters to the venue from a lot of the hotels that are downtown. So there's good vibes. You see little pockets of players and teams out and about, walking around the city. So it really is cool, and I hope that the Beer City Open is something that stays around for quite a while.
yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, I think we're gonna see. I think everybody's ideally. Nobody played last week. There's 12 teams that didn't play in New York, right? And so there should be some fresh teams
Yeah,
coming into this event. Ideally, we're going to see some teams that are fresh. They're going to be healthy, and hopefully we see some upsets. Hopefully, we see everybody at 100%. And it's an exciting event, and I'm pumped up for it. I love Beer City, but this is kind of that last home stretch, before the playoffs. Because I mean, the first playoffs is August 7th.
yeah, I know it.
So we're only a month away from being in the playoffs, and so there's a lot to be decided. And these points, these top three teams could be massive.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you got San Diego, Chicago, and Orlando, I believe, is the three events
Yeah,
after this. So it happens in a flash, very condensed schedule, but this is the start of a very nice run of events, and we'll be covering all of them. So happy to break this one down with you, and it'll be an enjoyable weekend, and we'll be ready to rock early next week to break down the San Diego event. Good stuff, Jimbo.
yeah, Adam, I'm excited. I'll see you there in Grand Rapids, and we'll hopefully maybe our teams can meet again. Maybe we can. I think we're on way opposite sides of the bracket, so it'd have to be in the finals, but that'd be
You
fun.
never know, buddy.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Finals, by the way, before we go, finals are on Fox
That's
Sunday.
right. That's
That's
right.
huge.
Yeah, a couple earlier round quality matchups if the chalk moves to the right in the draw on FS1 as well. So I mean, we got some FS1 and some national Fox ready to rock, and that's always enjoyable to get a little more of this great sport to the masses.
Yep, absolutely. So we will see you guys next week.